The day I lost everything started like any other, with the familiar San Francisco fog rolling over the hills, enveloping the city in its gray embrace. I was Alexander Chen, CEO of Nova Technologies, a company I had built from the ground up into a $500 million enterprise. But family secrets, like hidden bombs, have a way of exploding at the worst possible moment, and mine was about to detonate. I stood in my office, on the 40th floor, watching the morning light pierce through the fog when my assistant buzzed me. "Ms. Chen, your father and brother are here, they say it's urgent." A cold knot twisted in my stomach. Dad and Marcus never showed up uninvited. Something was wrong. "Send them in, Sarah," I said, straightening my blazer as I braced for whatever was coming. The glass door swung open, and they walked in, Dad in his sharp Italian suit, and Marcus wearing that smug look I'd learned to hate over the years. "Alexa, we need to talk," Dad said, his authoritative voice pulling me back to my childhood. He didn't wait for an invitation. Settling into one of the plush chairs across from my desk, Marcus remained standing, casually inspecting my office like he had a claim on it. "What's this about?" I asked, keeping my distance. Experience had taught me never to let family too close, especially when they barged in without warning. Marcus pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and slid it across my desk. "Remember this?" My heart dropped. On the screen was an old article, so buried I had thought it would never see the light of day again. The headline read, "Tech Prodigy Expelled from Stanford, Plagiarism Scandal Rocks Campus." "Where did you get this?" My voice barely escaped. "Does it matter?" Marcus's smirk widened. "What matters is what happens when the board sees it, when the investors see it, when the world realizes that the great Alexander Chen, the self-made tech genius, is nothing but a fraud." My fingers clenched around the edge of my desk, knuckles turning white. That was 15 years ago. I was young. I was desperate. "Save it," Dad interrupted. "We're not here to judge. We're here to help you, Princess." Princess, the word, once filled with love, now tasted like venom. I looked between them, these men who shared my blood but never my ambitions. "What do you want?" I asked, voice steady despite the storm inside me. Marcus opened a folder and placed it beside his phone. "Simple," he said, leaning in. "Sign over controlling interest in Nova Technologies to us. We'll keep your secret, and you can stay on as CTO. It's what you're better at anyway, the tech stuff. Leave the real business to us." The real business. As if building a $500 million company from scratch wasn't real enough. As if the sleepless nights spent coding, the sacrifices, the innovations, I had poured myself into this company, and now they were dismissing it like it was nothing. "And if I refuse?" I asked, my voice tight. Dad leaned forward, his expression a mixture of pity and threat. "Then tomorrow morning, every tech blog from here to Singapore will have that article, your board will have it, your partners will have it, and everyone will know that Nova's first revolutionary product, the one that launched your career, wasn't entirely yours, was it?" The walls seemed to close in around me. They had me cornered, and they knew it. That one mistake, the desperate decision of a broke, struggling student, was about to undo everything I'd built. Not because it defined me, but because in the tech world, perception is everything. "You have until tomorrow morning," Marcus said, standing. "Sign the papers, or watch everything you've built crumble. Your choice, sis." They left me there, alone, as the fog outside swallowed the city whole. I picked up the article, my hands trembling. The truth was far messier than the headline suggested. Yes, I had used someone else's code in my final project. Yes, I had been caught and expelled. But what that article didn't reveal was how it changed me, how it drove me to prove I could build something real, on my own. Nova Technologies wasn't built on stolen code, it wasn't built on borrowed ideas. Every line of code, every patent, every breakthrough. I created it all, and I did it honestly. And now, one mistake from when I was a desperate 19-year-old would destroy all of that. I spent the next few hours in a haze, going through my options with my lawyers. The verdict was unanimous: if this came to light, Nova would crash. The stock would plummet, the board would have no choice but to remove me. Everything I had worked for would be ruined. At midnight, I sat in my office, staring at the papers Marcus had left. Transfer of controlling interest. My company. My life's work. Signed away because of one stupid mistake I'd made as a desperate teenager. I thought of my team, the brilliant engineers who believed in me, the customers who trusted us, The young girls who looked up to me as a role model in the male-dominated tech world. All of it, gone, if this got out. With tears blurring my vision, I signed the papers. The next morning, I arrived early to clear out my office before the official announcement. But as I stepped off the elevator, Sarah was waiting for me, her face flushed with excitement. "Miss Chen." Sarah's voice cut through the air, sharp with urgency. "Thank God you're here. Google's CEO has been trying to reach you since dawn. They want to buy Nova. They're offering $3 billion. The board is already gathering for an emergency meeting." I froze in place, the weight of it all sinking in. $3 billion. 6 times the value of my company. The signed papers, the ones I'd prepared to hand over to Marcus and Dad just hours earlier, still sat untouched in my bag. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus: "On our way up, have those papers ready." A grin crept onto my face. The universe had a funny way of making things right. As the elevator dinged behind me, I felt a rush of anticipation. Sometimes, timing really is everything, and sometimes, karma has impeccable timing. The elevator doors opened, and I turned to face my father and brother. Their confident expressions faltered the moment they saw my smile. Behind them, the entire board of directors filed out of the second elevator, led by our chairman, Richard Thompson. "Perfect timing," I said, my voice steady. "We were just about to call an emergency board meeting." Marcus stepped forward, the signed papers in his hand. "Actually," he said, with his usual smugness, "we have something to announce first." "Indeed, we do," I cut him off, addressing the board. "Ladies and gentlemen, this morning, Google made an offer to acquire Nova Technologies for $3 billion in cash and stock." The corridor erupted in hushed excitement. I watched as color drained from my father's face. He realized, too late, what this meant. The papers Marcus had so eagerly clutched, the ones that would have transferred control of my $500 million company, were now worthless. Because in a few minutes, Nova Technologies would be worth 6 times that. "This is irregular," Dad said, trying to regain control. "There are some ownership changes we need to address first." "What ownership changes?" Richard asked sharply, eyes narrowing. He'd been in the business long enough to sense when something was off. I turned to my father, flashing him a sweet smile. "Yes, Dad, what ownership changes? Surely you're not referring to the papers Marcus is holding, the ones you tried to blackmail me into signing last night?" The board members' heads swiveled between us, their eyes wide as they tried to process what was unfolding. Marcus's face reddened. "You signed them. The company is ours." I raised an eyebrow and pulled out my phone. "Actually, I have a recording from last night that the board might find interesting. It details exactly how you tried to extort control of this company through blackmail. Should I play it?" Marcus lunged for my phone, but 2 of our security guards, whom I'd discreetly called earlier, stepped forward. Dad grabbed his arm, realizing far too late how badly their plan had backfired. "The boardroom is ready," I said coolly. "Shall we discuss Google's offer?" "Oh, and Dad, Marcus, since you're neither board members nor executives, you'll need to wait outside." The next 2 hours were a whirlwind of excitement and intense negotiations. Google's offer was legitimate. They had been watching Nova's AI innovations closely for months. Our stock price would skyrocket the moment the deal was announced, making me and our major shareholders incredibly wealthy. But I wasn't finished yet. After the board voted unanimously to accept the offer, I found Marcus and Dad still sitting in the reception area. Their faces were clouded with defeat. But I knew better than to let my guard down. "You can't do this," Marcus sputtered. "We're family." I let out a short laugh. "Funny, you didn't seem to care about family last night when you were threatening to destroy me." I sat down across from them, my voice steady. "But let's talk about family. Let's talk about what really happened 15 years ago at Stanford." Dad's head snapped up. Marcus turned pale. "You see, I did a little digging after your visit last night, called in some favors, had some very interesting conversations with people from my Stanford days, and do you know what I found out?" I pulled out another folder and placed it in front of him. The original code that I supposedly plagiarized? It was actually stolen from me, by you, Marcus. The truth had taken hours to uncover, but it was worth every second. Marcus had been struggling with his own CS courses at Stanford. He had stolen my project code during a holiday visit and submitted it as his own at his university. When his professor recognized the code, having collaborated with my professor, Marcus had planted evidence to frame me, making it look like I had stolen from him. "You let me get expelled," I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. You let me believe I had ruined my own life. I turned to our father. And you knew all along, but you protected him, because he was your favorite, your son. Dad couldn't meet my eyes. Marcus opened his mouth to protest, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. That article you threatened me with? It's about to be updated, with the truth. I've already spoken to 3 major tech publications. They're eager to share the story of how the plagiarist built a multi-billion-dollar company, while the real thief. I looked directly at Marcus. Well, how many failed startups have you had now? 5? You can't prove any of this, Marcus whispered, but I could see the fear in his eyes. Oh, but I can. Your old professor kept all the evidence. He's been waiting 15 years for someone to ask the right questions. I stood up. So here's what's going to happen. You're both going to leave my company. You're going to leave San Francisco. If anyone asks, you'll say you're proud of your daughter's, sister's, success. And if you ever try to come after me or Nova again. I let the silence hang, thick with the weight of my threat. They understood. As security escorted them out, I felt no satisfaction, no joy in my revenge. Only peace, the peace of finally being free from the lies that had haunted me for so long. The next few months were a blur of excitement. The Google acquisition made headlines worldwide. The story of my plagiarism did break, but not as a scandal. Instead, it was seen as a vindication, a triumph of the truth. Messages flooded in from young women in tech, telling me how my story inspired them to persevere in a male-dominated industry. I stayed on as CEO of Nova Technologies, now a subsidiary of Google, enjoying full autonomy to continue our groundbreaking work. Our AI technology expanded, revolutionizing everything from healthcare to environmental protection. The 19-year-old girl who'd been expelled from Stanford had indeed changed the world. Just not in the way anyone had expected. Marcus disappeared from the tech world. Last I heard, he was trying to open a restaurant in Austin. Dad retired to Florida, occasionally sending me apologetic emails, all of which I ignored. Mom, who had divorced him years ago, finally learned the truth. We grew closer than ever. During a celebration of our acquisition, Richard, our board chairman, asked me if I regretted not exposing Marcus's deception 15 years ago. I thought for a moment before answering. If I had, I said, I might never have worked as hard as I did to prove myself. Sometimes our greatest achievements come from our deepest wounds. I keep my original Stanford expulsion letter framed in my office now. Not as a reminder of betrayal, but as proof that our lowest moments don't define us. Our response to them does. And that? That is the real legacy I built.